Hey everybody, welcome to the I Am Podcast YouTube channel.
Make sure to tap the bell, subscribe, and comment down below. Welcome back.
Hey everybody.
It's been a while since we've sat down to podcast, so we are getting back in the groove here, and we are super excited. Maria has organized a very wonderful guest for us to have today, and we're super excited to introduce you to her, or her to you.
Can you guys tell that we missed our alarms and it was a very chaotic morning? Because that introduction, I think, just told it all.
Yeah.
Dolores, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dolores Aquista. I live in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm a marriage and family therapist with triplets who are now 19 years old.
Wow, that's crazy. Maria and I were talking about you, and I was like, triplets.
Yeah.
Like, no way.
Surviving the first 18 months was probably quite difficult.
Yeah.
I don't remember too much about the first 18 months.
I believe
except
that.
We were tired a lot of the time.
Yeah. No,
So.
no.
Are you still tired? Because I could believe that you might be still tired.
No, I think I kind of came out of the tired a few years ago.
Yeah. When they're like 15. Yeah.
It took a while.
So Dolores, how did you get to triplets?
So we had tried for a number of years to have children. Hold on one second, I'm getting my coffee. Thank you, dear. My husband brought me my coffee. I really think it's important to have coffee during a podcast.
I think so.
So yeah, we had tried for a number of years, and at one point, kind of gave up for like a year. And at that point, I was 42, I think.
Right.
And then like a year went by, and it was kind of it was very sad for me, for us. And I felt responsible, like somehow I was to blame. This was terrible that we couldn't have children.
I think
When
that's
we
a really
met, we
common
definitely agreed we wanted to have children.
Right.
Sorry.
I think that's really common to take the blame on yourself when it's not your fault, but we do that as women. We take that blame.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
So then we just decided that I said to my husband, okay, so that the main point of it is my eggs apparently were not good enough to get pregnant.
Right.
So we used donor eggs. And prior to that, we had asked my sister, she had some kind of qualms back and forth about it. Our fertility doctor had said that would be such a great opportunity.
Right.
And after she spoke to her husband, he just felt it wasn't going to work for them. And that was okay. I definitely was sad about it, because it would have been nice to have that genetic thing, but as it turns out, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So after my sister said no, we waited a while, and then I said to my husband, well, let's just go with donor. Let's go with donor. And that was like a year later.
Wow.
Was it
just
easy
went from there?
Being that your triplets are 19 now, how hard was it to find donor eggs back then?
It wasn't hard at all. It was a little expensive. So we ended up, maybe this is too much information.
There's never too much information
Yeah.
with us, so share away.
Yes.
Okay. So we ended up intentionally buying our house. And because of the market at that time, our house, we bought it, and we were able to take out a mortgage very quickly.
Right.
And refinance and get, I think my parents, looking back now, they're both gone, but I think my parents actually helped provide some of the money towards the treatments. But it wasn't the treatments. Actually, interestingly, our insurance at the time, I had my husband's, then I was working and had my own. And then we went back to being together. But during that one little period of time, I had Aetna, and I think it was Aetna or United Healthcare. It covered like all of my expenses except the donor.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't have a problem with any of the medical procedures, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
But we ended up ending up having like $30,000 to pay for it. So that was was challenging.
Well, 20
but
years
it worked
ago,
out.
that's...
I don't regret one bit of that. That never has been any kind of a negative,
Right.
thing to have spent that kind of money. So the donor process was easy. We found an attorney who worked with a social worker, and they worked together and they're in business. I noticed I don't think they're in business anymore in a while. And they were able to give us several, like 10, 15 different profiles.
Oh wow.
And we were able to pick the one that we wanted. And
Was that something that was really hard for you
what?
to choose a donor?
No, it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
I kind of knew what I wanted. I'm small. I'm like 5 feet tall.
Right.
I had naturally dark hair at one point, and so we chose someone with my coloring. My eye color is green,
Right.
and so we found someone. So as it ends up, our sons have one has very blue eyes. My husband has kind of blue hazel eyes, and my other son has kind of a brown hazel, and my daughter has kind of a brown hazel. So,
Yeah.
and people will interestingly say, "Oh, I see how she looks like you about my daughter."
Right.
I don't see that much of it, but I think it's more maybe mannerisms, like nurture,
Right.
more than nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just been my heart. It's been an amazing experience. I don't have any regrets.
When we talk to intended parents who are you 20 years ago, we talk about that a lot, that you're going to pick your donor, and there is that nature versus nurture piece, and you're the one up at night in the middle of the night wiping noses and all of those kinds of things. And it's nice to hear that 20 years later that still really rings true.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So did you transfer 3 embryos then, or how did that come to be?
Wow. Okay. So I think there were originally, I want 7 viable embryos, which was remarkable and wonderful. And then there were 5, and then there were 4. So they implanted 4,
Oh.
and 4 were implanted, and 3 took.
Wow.
So I did not know, though, I'll tell you this. I didn't know that any had taken. So when we went in, we had a pregnancy test, and it was positive. And the numbers kept going up. I don't quite understand all the medical stuff, but the numbers kept going up, which indicated that I would probably have at least 2.
Right.
And then we went home, and they were going to wait to do a sonogram for a little while. And we went home, and unfortunately, I woke up in the night with like a gush of bleeding, and I was devastated. I thought, oh my God, I lost the baby. We lost the baby.
Right.
And so the next day they called us in, and like I said, I think a little time had passed at that point, and they did do a sonogram. And I remember, unfortunately, for some reason, my husband couldn't go that day, so I went by myself. I took the metro, went downtown to, I think it was George Washington University Hospital. Yeah. And so I had been referred to a Dr. Larson, his name is, and he specialized in what do you call
like IVF
risky pregnancies,
high risk pregnancies,
for, women over 40. So anyway, they did the sonogram, and I remember sitting there just waiting on pins and needles, and the sonographer saying, we have 3 beating hearts.
Oh my gosh.
And I just like almost started crying, but I was so relieved.
I believe
that to hear that there were 3 was like, a miracle. And it was never once did I think, oh my God, that's outrageous, or that's crazy, or I can't handle it. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy.
Right.
And I went home, and I think it freaked my husband out a bit when I called him and said, oh, by the way, there's 3.
We're having triplets.
But it worked out amazingly beautiful.
How did your pregnancy go as, being older and having triplets?
It wasn't bad. So my Dr. Chang, Dr. Chang, before he referred me, that's right, wait, I'm trying to remember now how that played out. One of the doctors I was seeing wanted me to reduce to 2. And I said, I was devastated. I said, no, can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry. And my primary OBGYN said, I'm going to send you to doctor, I can't think of his name right now, but so he sent me to a neonatologist, and coincidentally, he was my cousin's professor. But anyway, and she did not like him, but I loved him. He said, absolutely not, do not reduce, leave them alone. And so that was, magic to my ears, music to my ears. And then I went back to Dr. Larson, and he said, see all those pictures? And he showed me all these multiples, and he said, all of those are fine. They all did well. All the moms did well. There's your proof. So of course I gave him a picture of our kids when they were born. But anyway, the pregnancy was not bad.
How many weeks did you make it to? Like, how far did you make it?
So we only made it to 32.
Okay.
That's pretty far, though.
Yeah, it was pretty far. And when I started having contractions, I guess early, the doctor decided to give me what is it called? Steroid shots. So I got steroid injections, which helped the baby's lungs mature.
Right.
And so by the time that they were born, what ended up happening was they gave me the shots. I lasted a bit longer, and then we were going down for a sonogram, and I started having contractions, and they said, come to the hospital. So we went directly to the hospital, and they took me in, and I had the C-section, I think the next morning. It was the next morning.
So it ended up happening quite quickly in the end for you.
Yeah, it was very quick in the end, and it was very it was great. Like it wasn't a bad experience. Trying to remember any specifics, like the pregnancy itself, I was really careful. I didn't drink any coffee at all. I ate really a lot of, not raw, but like fresh foods. And I was really careful about what I ate, although that's kind of how I am anyway. But it was great. It was especially because we had tried for, I guess, 4 years, and to then have 3 kids was, as a lot of people said, oh, instant family, which wouldn't probably have been my first choice, but at the other end of it, it was the best.
It. Yeah, you wouldn't change it for the world. Did you end up having to do time in the NICU after with the babies?
Yeah. Not very long though. Sam was in the least amount of time. So Sam was 4 pounds. I think he was 4'1". Lydia was 3'6", and Simon was 215. So Simon stayed in for 6 weeks. Sam was in for like a week, and Lydia was in for, how did that play out? I know they wanted us to take Sam home on a Friday, and we were, and I guess they wanted us to take Lydia too. And Lydia still wasn't at the 5-pound mark, I think. And so we had a disagreement with our doctor at that time, and we ended up leaving Sam longer. We chose to leave Sam longer so we could bring him and Lydia home at the same time. And then 6 weeks later, we brought home Simon, and that was very hard, leaving Simon in the NICU. That was tough.
I'm sure, to have 2 at home. And so did you go every day and then leave the other babies at home, or how did that end up playing out for you?
So I was pumping. I was trying to do nursing, but nursing was really hard. So I was starting to pump milk, and I had started in the hospital. And so my husband would go every day, but I was absolutely exhausted. And I only went maybe twice a week, but I did feel kind of sad, I guess, that I couldn't get myself to Children's Hospital every single day.
Yeah.
But it was very hard. So he did. and my parents went, and my uncle and my cousin, they went. My sister, my brother did not go, but my sister went, my brother-in-law. So Simon did get some attention, but it was hard to leave him there.
I'm sure it was a very good moment when everybody was home and whole.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I remember. And they were all three bundled in these little blankets, really cute, like little papooses. In, I guess, papoose or papusa, like both. Anyway, they were very cute in their little bed side by side until at one point we had to move them into separate beds because Sam was rolling around and kicking the other two. So he actually was a lot bigger for a while.
I'm sure that would have been,
That's wild. I can't even imagine. Like, having one baby was so
overwhelming.
Hard. It was so hard. I can't imagine having three. And then having to also deal with that mental strain of, okay, we have two at home and one not at home, and then they're all at home, and this is even harder. Like, yeah, I'm that's amazing. Like, it's incredible.
It's pretty cool.
One thing I really wanted to touch on or hear about, especially, we have a lot of intended parents who listen and watch. And now, with your working credentials of being a marriage and family therapist and having done this and having 3 babies with donor eggs, how did you approach that? What did you, going into that, how did you share their story?
With the kids
Yeah.
or with other people?
Well, actually, both would be lovely. I just think it's so amazing that we get to talk to somebody who's on the other side and who has been on the other side for a long time.
Yeah. So I was kind of annoyed because my mom told everyone first.
Oh.
So I did not get the opportunity to tell my family what we were doing. And then basically, so everybody knows, I would say everyone in our family knows now, because I never really had any negativity around telling people that they were donor. It was more that it was my place to tell.
Yeah.
So we ended up, the kids, we told them right away. Like, as soon as they could understand what was language, we started explaining to them that there was a nice woman who, donated her eggs. She was the stepdaughter, I think, of a NICU nurse.
Oh,
And she, I think the NICU nurse, somehow there was some other piece about donors involved, which I can't remember. So the young woman who was, I think at the time, like 23, she had a 3-year-old maybe, and she wasn't sure she wanted more children, but she really wanted to help a family that was unable to have, their own genetic children. So that was us, and my heart goes out to her. So that was never an issue with the kids, and they've never felt that it was weird or odd. They told their friends, and some of the friends were like, "Oh, you're adopted." "No, we're not adopted," or "It's different." And no, you're adopted. No, not really, not in the same way as, an adoption.
Yeah.
So that was pretty easy. And no one has ever, there's never really been any negativity around it.
Did you ever meet your donor?
No, we did not. I don't know I think at the moment, I think it's closed, so I don't think I don't know if we could.
Right.
But my daughter has said she would really like to, I know, like, if they do Ancestry or whatever, it's very possible they could find her, and I'm perfectly fine with that. That's just, that would be great. Really, she'd be like in her 40s, and I don't know, I just think it would be nice.
It'd be very cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be, fair, when I did my first donation, that would be 7 years ago now, that was doing it like what we would call a known donation, was very new then. So I'm quite sure that even if it was something that you had wanted back then, it probably would have been fairly difficult because it would not have been common at all. And even actually a difference between Canada and the US now. I don't think the US does very many known donations now. And even here in Canada, there's definitely a big divide of known versus anonymous donations still to this day.
Well, and I think a big part of that is like egg bank versus
Yeah.
So what do your kids do now? What are their lives
So
like?
all of them are in college.
Oh, very cool. What are they
one
taking?
is here in DC at American University,
Oh, cool.
studying criminology.
Oh.
One is in Shepherdstown, West Virginia at university there and studying art, an amazing artist. And my daughter is at Maryland University in College Park, where I went, where Mindy went.
Very cool.
So
What is she taking?
she's also studying art. She wants to do interior design.
Oh, very cool.
So,
Did
Yeah.
you find raising triplets that they were this really tightly united trio, or were they all kind of their own people from the beginning?
So, so one of my fondest memories is Lydia. She would always be the kid who wouldn't go to sleep. So the other two were just out like a light, and Lydia would be at the front of the triplet stroller, wide awake.
Right.
And okay, that's enough. We've got a little bit of confusion back here with
They're
cats.
so cute.
I love it.
We have 5 cats and 2 dogs.
Oh my
Anyway, we have
God.
multiples of everything.
I was gonna say
So,
a full house.
Can't just have one. That's funny.
So Lydia was always smiling and just hilarious. She's always been that way. So when they were little, we have lots of pictures of them together, of course. But I think they really enjoyed each other. I think they've sort of, what do you call it? Kind of like gone off in different directions a little bit. So
I think that's beautiful. I think it's really cool too that they were all willing to go to separate places.
Yeah, but that's probably actually a very good thing for them to have some independence and some identity all on their own.
yeah, when I don't think there were any more triplets when they graduated. I think they were the only triplets. There were a couple sets of twins, and I don't know anything about the twins or whether they were IVF or natural, but I do know that ours were pretty sure they were the only triplets.
Yeah. Well, it's such I don't think I know any triplets.
I was going to say, your triplets would be the only ones, and that really stretches the periphery of my circles, that your triplets are the only ones. We see not lots, but we do see twins still in IVF, but it's so different rare. Now. When we see twins in IVF now, that's because the embryo's split, not because we've transferred true. I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, we still did lots of double embryo transfers, but now it's very, very rare that we would see more than one embryo transferred.
Well, and you can't insure a twin pregnancy.
Yeah,
so
here in Canada, there is no insurance available for a twin pregnancy, which can get really expensive.
Wow, okay. So I will tell you this, I think after my pregnancy or during or at that time, it seems like I recall that the reason that my the original doctor or the original OB wanted me to reduce to 2 was because he felt that would look really, and I really respect him, so I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he thought it would look very bad statistically. They did not want triplets. They did not want quads.
Wow.
They wanted, and the reason they implanted, I guess, 4 eggs was because they felt the quality of the eggs was not good enough to just plant 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So they planted 4. And
that was really common back then, to just throw as many as we can in and see what happens.
Hope one sticks.
Right, and so he told me afterwards they're not doing that anymore. They're not implanting multiples anymore.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 2, but no more than that.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but the stat that sticks out in my mind now is for every single embryo transfer we do, I think it's about 1 in 80 splits to twins. is about what they say. I actually
Wow.
do know of one set of naturally conceived triplets in Vegas, actually. And when she came home, this would have been a few years ago now, but they really encouraged her for a reduction as well. And she was like, no, like, I'm not doing that. She did sadly lose the pregnancy in its entirety, but when after she got home and there was 3 babies and all that, they really did encourage. And she was like, how could you even fathom, like, well, which one? Like, how do you even make that decision?
Yeah. Well, and I think, like,
Right.
you've tried for so long, for so hard, or so hard for so long. How do you do that? Like, I think that's the big thing, though, is that, like, a male doctor in his mid-40s has a completely different outlook than a woman who's been trying to get pregnant for most of her life. Like,
Yeah, I think that they trying to think about what you just said. When I was told I should reduce to 2, it was because of obviously my age.
Right.
I was 43,
right.
and because of my age, and also because of the kids, they said they'll have a better chance. But then the other doctor, his name was, I think, Dr. Amin, he said you could lose all of them.
Yeah.
And that was what stuck in my head. He said, you might lose all of them. You might take one and the other 2 won't survive because he said, just don't mess around.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
You know? And that, I can't even imagine. That would be devastating. Oh my gosh. After all that. So yeah, that's a very hard thing.
I just have to say, for having triplets in your early 40s and then being 19 now, you look fabulous. Like,
yeah, you're hot tamale, Dolores.
Thank you so much.
Like,
I take really good care of myself most of the time, and that's so sweet. Thank you. And I eat well. I exercise, and I also have the wonderful Italian genes from my dad, which I'm telling you, they do make a difference. The Sicilian, Italian, Mediterranean
they
genetics.
age like fine wine.
I think
truly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Funny. Well, Dolores, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah.
How did you all get into doing this work yourselves and being involved in this?
Well, Maria was first.
Yeah, so you maybe know that my mom also, she is the intended parent coordinator here. So
yeah,
that's what really got me started. She was probably working with Anu for 18 months or 2 years, and I was 19. And I was working at the psych hospital, and I had kind of known that I could be a donor. And I took my time thinking about that. Like, I would like to say for at 19, I really thought that through and was thinking long term and not impulsively. And I really came to the conclusion that if I was ever in a position where I needed help like this, I would be so grateful to have someone like myself be willing to help. And really, that's what it all boiled down to me at 19. And I mean, I've been at this a long time now, and I've heard a lot of different reasonings and a lot of different, callings, if you will, or however you want to look at that, for ladies who've done this. And it really blows my mind sometimes. I've had girls tell me, well, it's just like giving blood. It's just something you should do. I've had a lot of girls along the same vein as me. Like, if I ever needed this kind of help, I'd be grateful to have it. And so really that was the root of it for me. So I did my first donation, and then I was still working at the psych hospital, and Lorraine had asked me, after doing a donation myself, I had talked about it with my friends, and I had told them, and so I actually had a few friends who had come in and become donors. And Lorraine, the owner of Anu, said, you brought these really wonderful people in. We would like to really, really kickstart the program, because at that time the donor side was significantly smaller than the surrogacy side, and I was so excited and really delighted that she asked. And so I came in kind of part-time, and I was still working at the psych hospital, and eventually it got to the point where the program needed me full-time, and so I left things at the psych hospital, and I've been here ever since. And Jara came to be I had, like, really, this is, like, girl crush moment. She was on my Instagram, and I was like, you know, I really just want to be this girl's friend. Like, how can I be friends with this girl? And then we had a mutual friend who decided to be a donor. She was one of my friends, and I met her through friends of a friend, and she had told her story, and then Jared had heard her story and thought that this was for her. And so then when she messaged me, I was like, yes, like, I can make this girl my friend now. And
Maria tricked me. She told me that when you sign up to be a donor, that she would, like, meet all of the donors in person. That's a lie. We don't do that. She just wanted to meet me in person. We had to go to the Tim Hortons.
And it was funny.
And
Yeah.
it worked. Now we're besties.
It really did work. And you know what? I did meet lots of girls at that time, but I was not missing the opportunity. Because I'm like, if I can see her in person, I can convince her to be my friend. So
and it worked out.
It did. And then when I was pregnant, we were looking for someone who could, you know, come in and help me and give me a bit of a break for maternity leave. And I was like, we need this girl. And yeah.
Yeah. So I did my first donation in 2019, and Maria quickly became my friend. And then when she went on mat leave, we talked about, yeah, if I could help her, and I think we make a pretty good team. And yeah, And now we're stuck together forever.
That's how it came to be.
Yeah.
Wow. You're making me cry.
Yeah. I just did another donation a month ago, and Maria was still my support, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Not everyone is as lucky to say that they get to work with their best friend, but
Yeah.
I am, and I think.
And we actually still like each other, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the fact that we get to help change the world in this way.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's just not something every job has a purpose and a need and all of those things, but I really think what we get to do every day is extra special.
Yeah.
It is. It certainly is. And let me tell you that it did not occur to me that I would not be able to get pregnant at 39.
Right.
It just didn't even
Yeah.
occur to me.
Yeah.
And it was a second marriage. And I hadn't had children in the first marriage. So just never occurred. I just thought, sure, I'll be able to get pregnant. My mom had my sister when she was 41, I guess. So it just, yeah.
Yeah. The
So,
thought, I don't think
it's-
for many it crosses their mind that they can't, you know,
Right,
when they're ready,
right,
like
right.
when they're
Well,
ready
because
to work.
We spend most of our lives trying not to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Thinking it's gonna be
Exactly
like,
right.
yeah, thinking it's like so easy to get pregnant. It's a miracle to get pregnant, but we're not told that.
No, they don't tell
Right.
all the
Yeah.
horny 17-year-olds in sex ed that, you know,
Yeah.
this is
You
actually.
will get pregnant and die.
Yeah, exactly. That's the message we preach versus the reality we see. Aw, look at that little fluffy.
gosh. Oh.
Here's one of my
Is that a
five.
Maine Coon?
What she looks like.
This is Rue. Okay,
Oh my
Rue.
gosh, she's so
Anyway.
So cute. Aw.
So,
When we actually recently talked to one of the doctors we work with, and she said, I'd be very curious to know actually what the fertility rates were 20 years ago when this was you, because now, for a long time we said it was 1 in 6 was, you know, the average, and now she said the statistics say it's actually 1 in 4.
Yeah.
And so it would just be curious, like, my mind and numbers, like, what the statistics said 20 years ago of the fertility rates, if it was still 1 in 6 or if it was higher than that.
right.
But
I don't know.
I don't know.
thank you so much for jumping on and having this call with us. We've been excited for this for a very long
Yes.
time. We've been looking forward to this conversation with you.
Thank you for being so open with us and sharing your stories. Very beautiful.
I think it'll be I really love this episode, and I really think it's going to be a really nice message for all of our intended parents, and even all of our intended parents that have new little ones, like that, you know, now, well, they're no longer intended parents, but, you know,
When they're parents.
yeah, they're parents, to hear from someone who's been at this a long time.
No, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm very happy to be able to do this. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Dolores, for sharing your story with us.
We hope you enjoyed hearing it as much as we did.
Yes. Have a great day and happy Thursday.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.